Logan O'Connor having some surgery. It's going to keep him out 5 to 6 months. Why? I have some concern. Let's talk about it on a new episode of Locked On Avalanche.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of a Locked On Avalanche, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in, making it your first listen of the day. That is always appreciated. If you want to get in on the conversation, join our subtext. Link is in the show notes below. Chat with Kyle and I one-on-one. We get your opinion, everything Avalanche related, and share it on this very podcast. All right, sir, we will get to our next season grade, and that is Mr. Cale Makar. Pretty easy to see where that one's going to go, much like the Nathan MacKinnon one. And we will finish up the forward part of free agents with the right wings. So we'll get to that. But where we're going to start is Logan O'Connor has another hip surgery, and this one is going to keep him out 5 to 6 months. This was announced like Friday or Saturday. And so, we're at the beginning of June. Worst case scenario, he's out till, November, December. And the fact that it's a hip surgery, which is the second hip surgery that he has had recently. So do you have concern here, or is it, and we didn't, at least I haven't heard if it's the same hip, or, does it even matter? He had surgery on one hip, and if it's the other one, it's like, okay, well then maybe the one that they did is okay, get the other one done and we're all right. Or is it the same one and that's a problem? Or what are you thinking in this whole thing right here?
Yeah, there has to be a little bit of concern because it's a hip. Like if it's an arm, if it's a leg, you see these kind of injuries all the time. They come back 100%. But like you had Frankie with hip problems and
yes,
no longer a part of the team. And this is time number 2 with a hip injury. And nobody really comes back from a hip injury 100%. And if I'm not mistaken, they signed him to a 6-year deal back in 2024. So you are still hoping you get back to 100%. And we're going to go over the right wing free agents. Will the Avalanche have to look at this a little bit harder now?
Exactly, man.
To get right into the season because, you're right in. This is full season mode. We're already announcing injuries, long-term injuries. Like you got Landeskog back. Now you're losing LOC for a while. So we are right in the thick of things when it comes to Avalanche country.
This is just this is the routine, basically. I don't remember in the Chris McFarland, Joe Sakic press conference them mentioning Logan O'Connor. I remember him mentioning, I want to say it was Lehkonen, something with his shoulder. I'm almost positive it was him. And that was really it. And he said, he's like, no, that's all we got. And that's the only one who's going to have a minor operation. And that was it. Never said anything about Logan. So where did this come from? What was he in just some discomfort and wasn't going away? Because he didn't miss any time. He didn't miss any of that Dallas series that I remember. I don't. That's the weird part for me is like, where did this come from? That now we're a month after their season is over, and now this needs to happen. So, and again, like we don't know if it's the same hip, and again, I would almost say like it wouldn't really matter. The concern is still there because if it is the same hip, then obviously the concerns are easy to see. If it's the other hip, it's like, what's going on with Logan O'Connor's hips? Come on.
Do they lie? Do they lie? Yes or no?
I said that to Lisa on subtext. So it like what's going on with his hips? I don't know. They're the most interesting hips on the Colorado Avalanche.
But see, that's the thing. Like we spent 2.5 years analyzing Gabe Landeskog skating with the cup. Like, when did this happen? Why did this happen? And if it's a common occurrence and something he's got to deal with, what's the percentage level that he comes back in December-ish. And it doesn't matter if it's the left or the right hip, if it's the same hip. Like, this is not just a, okay, you're done, you're healed, get back out there. Like, it's...
Do you feel like whenever you see something like this of an Avalanche player having a surgery and out an extended amount of time, and maybe this is unfair to Logan O'Connor, do you go right to Gabe Landeskog mode of it's not going to be 5 to 6 months? I'm not going to say it's going to be 3 years, but how often when an Avalanche player gets hurt, do they come back in the time frame that was initially given?
I don't put it on Landeskog. I go back a little bit to Frankie, as I brought up before.
Mm-hmm.
You kept waiting, and he'd eventually retire. He was never the same version of himself.
He had groin issues too, I think, but the hips were definitely.
And it was, he would come back and then something else would happen and then he's gone again for a while. So like Landeskog, yes, he's the outlier. It's the long-term deal, but my concerns were shaken when it came to Frankie. And when you see kind of similar adjacent injuries with LOC, that's where I draw. It's not so much the Landeskog thing, because that was a freak injury,
right,
and a not everyday occurrence to come back. The Frankie thing is where I'm kind of setting my baseline for this injury and recovery time, and how much of the actual Logan O'Connor comes back is what's concerning to me.
Yeah. So we'll get to the free agents in a second, but after Brock Nelson signed, the thinking is like, okay, what do they do with Jonathan Drouin? Does that thinking change again with something like this? And I know if he stays out that time frame, 5 months, he's back beginning of November. 6 months, he's back beginning of December. So he'll either miss 1 or 2 months of the season, not half of the season, not the entirety of the season. But even if it is just that 1 month, I don't know. It's like, if you go 1 month, do you just slot someone in there from the Eagles and say, hey, let's get a month out of this guy? If it's 2 months, do you say the same thing? Or are you saying like, hey, because we don't, right now it's 5 to 6 months, we've been unlucky in the injury department, and that is kind of like a way to slot in, bring back Jonathan Drouin?
That's going to be like, you're talking about a price tag. And we just talked last week about how much you have left after the Brock Nelson deal. And it's not that much. Do you want to go out and pay for a Band-Aid? Or maybe a possible replacement depending on what version of LOC comes back? Or is this the time that you say, look down at the Eagles and say, all right, guys, now it's your time to shine? Is this where you find some kind of value? Is Miles Wood? Do you do something there? Is this where is like the contract that he carries? Is it more, do you get more value trading that away or plugging it in until LOC comes back and then evaluate from there? It shifts things a little bit when it comes to the roster. But again, you just signed Brock Nelson. You don't have a lot of money, and you haven't even made it to puck drop of the opening game, and you already have long-term injuries. So you got to be really careful when it comes to money and going out and signing something to get you through the season.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like, you don't want to jump to signing someone that you wouldn't have because of this, and then he does come back, and now you're what? Now you have all this jumbling to do, and you're playing cap gymnastics again. So I don't know. I don't think the thinking changes for Drouin specifically for him because of this. Because it's all a money thing. But if they get him back at that same number, or maybe $500,000 more, maybe they do that and bring him in, because there's going to be another move made where they have to free up cap space. They have to do that. So, but does the Drouin hanging around, does it amplify a little bit more because of this? I don't know.
Because he's a UFA. Like, is it in the game plan to bring him back?
Yeah.
Like, he's no longer a member of the Avalanche as it sits right now.
Right.
do they feel like they need to go out and get him one more time? Or is there something cheaper, higher upside? Or is this where you shake the tree at the Eagles? There's a lot of options here, but as it sits, you're okay for right now, but you're going to be looking at other places when the offseason rolls around.
Yeah. Because it's a handful of games. You know what I mean? It's not 5 or 6 weeks of the season. It could be 8. So
don't talk to me about injury timelines, please.
It's crazy.
Just got out of that.
I know. All right. Let's get a break in here, and then we'll talk about some of those other options that could be available for the Avalanche in right wingers. So let's do that after this. All right, let's hear about Monarch Money. If you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Not me, because I get stuff like this when Pearl Jam 20, Faithful Ale right there. Yeah, when they celebrated their 20th anniversary, they went to Dogfish Head and said, hey, make some beer for us. And that's the Faithful Ale. If you know Faithful, it's a song off their Yield album. So that's where stuff like my money goes to. That sits up there on that shelf. So I took that down very gingerly. Don't worry.
I bet.
Yeah, I didn't want to be a viral thing of smashing a bottle of Faithful Ale while we're recording a podcast. But if you wonder where all your money go between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. And Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center, and you can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Take control over your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. That is monarchmoney.com. Code is LOCKEDONNHL. And you get half off your entire first year. Go check them out today. All right, so let's look at some right wingers. And once again, I think this position specifically kind of really drills home how thin this free agent market is. We were talking about centers. Avalanche locked that up. We talked about left wingers where there's not a lot of need for it, but hey, maybe just grab somebody that might suit your style. And with all these injuries that we're talking about already, and the same goes for the right wingers. It's top heavy with Mitch Marner. He's your big gun overall. That's the funny thing about this is, like, as light as it is on the right wing side of things, the number one guy in the entire free agency is on the right wing in Mitch Marner. What do you think not that he's coming to the Avs, but where do you think he's going for how much? I just want to start with him.
This is one of those that I feel like the writing's on the wall that he's going to go to Utah. He's going to be a member of the Mammoth, and they're going to pay him just stupid money just to say, this is our franchise going forward. And he is our first quote unquote Mammoth. And I have a feeling it's going to be like 12, 13.
I think it's going to be at least that. Yeah. I think he's going to be in that 12, 13 range. But I think you have one of these lower seeded teams that have lots of money that will go higher than that to try to lure him in and kind of turn the fortunes around of, you're hearing, and Utah's on the rise and they had money. So, and those owners want to make a statement. They want to make a splash, bring someone like him in. You're hearing more and more from Anaheim doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Anaheim's got a ton of money. So yes, while he's like in the 12, 13 range, you might get someone like Anaheim saying, like, we can give you 14 with the cap going up. We can give you 14. Like, do you want to come here and be part of the turnaround and be that guy, get out of Toronto? There's gonna be a team that does that, and it's those kind of bottom dwelling teams. And is that enough to get them over the hump? I don't know. I know Mitch Marner is he gets dragged around and people kind of just make fun of his game. And I said it on an earlier episode, like, I turned my tide on Mitch Marner. That dude has game.
I haven't gone that far on Mitch Marner. Like, it's again, It's the Mikko Rantanen discussion. Like, Mitch, what can you do on your own? You don't have the core four around you wherever you're going now. So, yes, you're going to get that money, but is it going to be worth it wherever you're going? If you're landing in Anaheim, San Jose, Utah, are you going to get the same bang for your buck? The question's still out there, but yeah, he's the big, pricey right wing. And again, like we mentioned in the first segment, the Avs, as they currently sit, looking at this list, knowing what you have with LOC and the money you have left over, none of these names really feel like a replacement or something that you can really afford. Nothing. When I went over this list, it just honestly, about halfway through it, I said, "Oh, let's just go get Wagner for one more year and let's just go with it."
Yeah, because you don't need, like, your top is set. Like your top two lines are set. Really, your top three with all of them are set. With and now you got this Logan O'Connor stuff, but no, like after Marner, with the list on this goes just off of the previous year's AAV, and Marner is at the top. So Marner's at 10.9, and then in second it drops to 6.65 to Brock Besser. So that's a pretty big drop off between talent. And I think Besser's a good player. I think he's inconsistent. I think he gets injured, and his rate is gonna go up. And I wouldn't pay it. I don't, nothing personal, and he's not coming to the Avalanche anyway, but it's just you see the kind of the big gap between right wingers and who's at the top and everybody below Marner, because there's a steep drop off.
And again, the Avs don't have a lot to pay. Like you're going to have to make moves to make that happen. So the Avs instantly are out. They're on. Yeah, it's weird. He's towards the top of the list, but they made 3.4 last year, and I talked about it at the trade deadline, and that was Joel Armia. Oh, I do like him. I don't know what his rate is going to be. Let me see if he's on the Athletic page, because they kind of give projections, and they go a little bit high with their projections, like they did with Jonathan Drouin. They had Drouin making over $5 million next year. I don't know about that, but they don't have Armia up there. But I like him. Like guys like him, I like. Who else is on here? Let me see. Riley Smith is one that I don't know. Like, I think he might be too much, but he's somebody that I like too. The only one name that feels like a probability that the Avs could go for, and one that feels like a very Avalanche move to do for no reason at all. The Avalanche move, Abi Kubel is available.
He is,
but he's on the cheap. But
very much so.
Speaking on the cheap, and if you need a nice little Band-Aid just so you can sleep well at night, Taylor Radish, 27 years old, from Washington Capitals. He only was commanding $1 million price tag last year. I feel like that's something, if the LOC thing keeps you up at night and you really want something to do, I like his game. It's not like it's like poster material, but I feel like he'll get you to where you need to be.
Somebody that I really, really like, and I don't know what I want to look up what he's looking for or what he could potentially make, and that is Pius Suter.
Oh, okay.
Because and here's the reason, right? What are we talking about? We're talking about Logan O'Connor. We're talking about injuries and how they just decimate the Avalanche every single year. He's a utility man. You can put him anywhere and he's just fine. You can put him at center or wing, top six, bottom six, middle six, does not matter. And he will do whatever you need him to do. He's not the fastest guy. He can keep up. He can keep up. He's not going to blow anybody with his speed, but the hockey IQ for Suter is off the charts. And that's where he would excite me, being in an Avalanche sweater. But I just don't know if that's money wise. I mean, everything comes down to money. So because we're saying if the Avalanche move money out, it's to address what? Defense. I don't think they really need to address much on the offense that much, even with this Logan O'Connor thing. You do, but is it for somebody of Pius Suter's level, or is he going to want an AAV to come in? I don't know. I don't think they can get there.
I can get the Avalanche to the Stanley Cup for just $1.5 million.
Can you now?
Corey Perry's available.
Don't even go there. No. I don't know how he's doing this. And hey, I mean, if you bring him in like over the last 6-7 years, you have your odds of going to the Stanley Cup are through the roof for some unknown reason. Your odds of losing the Stanley Cup are also through the roof because he can't seem to get that straight. But I mean, he's already 40 years old, dude. Like, but he's still finding a way to do it, and it drives me crazy because he's one of those guys that he's chilled out a little bit as he's gotten older. But man, in his younger years, he was annoying. He was super, and he still is to an extent. But I think he realizes, like, hey, if I throw down with one of these younger guys, I might be Logan O'Connor breaking a hip in about 5 to 6 months.
He made the Ducks hard to watch.
Oh, God. Yeah, that was his heyday of being a nuisance.
Yeah.
Big time. So, yeah, that would be kind of where I would go is like Suter. Victor Olofsson is available. Trent Frederick's available. He was somebody that I liked too. The trade deadline. I don't know if he leaves Edmonton though. I think he liked going there and he might stay there. So there are, for what the Avalanche would need to address, how we're saying like it's not very top heavy. That's just fine for the Avalanche because they don't need that.
No.
So all of these other guys that are, mid-range and lower, that's where they're looking if they need to. And there are some guys there. There are some guys there to just plug the holes. But it comes down to a money thing. Obviously, it always does. So
I feel there's going to be more of an emphasis on the camp this year because, especially with the Eagles' success in the playoffs, like pushing a little bit farther. Like I feel like it's time to start bringing some of those guys up, and it'll be cheaper.
This could be an Ivan thing.
Good.
It could be. I liked what he brought.
It could. It really could.
So we shall see. All right. Let us get to Cale Makar's grade, and we'll wrap this bad boy up after we do that. Coming up next. All right, we're making our way through season grades like we always do, alphabetically. And Cale Makar is up next. No announcement yet on the Norris, but you'd have to believe he has this thing pretty well in hand. Just an incredible season for Cale Makar. And we had a lot of people, almost everybody, commenting about how his regular season was A+++, and his postseason was the total opposite. And wanting to drag his grade down because of that. And that's your right. If you want to do that, I'm not going there. He's an all day A+ for me. Even with the struggle, and if he was the only guy that struggled in the first round and they lost because of him solely, I might ding him and bring him down to like an A- because of it. But this season that he had, with the 30 goals, 62 assists, 92 points overall, plus 28, plays almost 26 minutes a night. So he's out there all the time, does everything, power play, penalty kill, just, he's everything. We're talking about Swiss Army knife. That's Cale Makar.
And like, I get everybody's complaint, and the playoffs, it sucks that you're not in there anymore, but he had 5 points in the playoffs. And like even though he had like career numbers this year, like you saw moments where you knew Cale Makar had more to give you and wasn't playing his best like defensive game. But if you're just never watched an Avalanche game all year, you look at these numbers. If you're voting for the Norris and you're all the way up there in Edmonton, never watched an Avalanche game, you're just putting in a vote. You look at those numbers, that's a Norris winner. When it comes to putting up the stats, like he puts up numbers that defensemen shouldn't. And there were at times this year, I get the complaints. He had not his best defensive game, but he's still a generational defensive talent, and his best defensive game is still better than a majority of the league.
Absolutely. I thought not this past year, the year before, defensively struggled. And then this year, I thought he was back into, a good, normal kind of routine for him defensively. I thought he was good. I thought he was solid this year defensively. The year before that, struggled mightily. And I think that's what kind of kept him from winning the Norris again last year was the defensive numbers. This year, defensive numbers were better. And, offensively, there's nobody like him. So I have the NHL Edge page. So if you are watching on YouTube, I'm going to bring this up because it's funny. Here we go. So look at that.
Oh,
look at
my
that
word.
web there. Look at that. You remember the Nathan McKinnon one? Like in his web, the circles were all the way around the outside, but his shooting percentage was like almost like right in the middle, like almost a bullseye. Shooting percentage was terrible. That's not the case for Cale Makar. Everything is around the outside perimeter. And you look at these percentiles: top skating speed, 98th percentile; speed burst over 20 miles an hour, 99th; skating distance, 99th. Top speed and shot was 93rd. Shots on goal, 99. Shooting percentage, 98. Goals, 99. Offensive zone time on even strength, 90th percentile. That's stupid, Kyle. That is dumb. Like one guy should not be dominating that much in the National Hockey League. But those numbers are just wild. And you go down and this is all these up here. This is all of them like kind of broken up, and you can see where they kind of fall. So there's his, speed burst, 488 bursts in between 18 and 20 miles an hour, 179 between 20 and 22 miles an hour, 27 speed bursts above 22 miles an hour. Those are just not, you can't beat those numbers. And here's his skating distance. Most guys, when you look up the on the NHL Edge page, and you get to the skating distance, this graph over here goes 0, 1, 2, 3, and that's where it stops. They had to go to 5 for Cale Makar because that's how much he's skating around the ice. It's nuts. It just keeps going and going. Here's his shots on goal. If you're having a down day, just bring up Cale Makar's Edge page, and you can just do nothing but smile.
And see, I'm glad we do, and like we don't just skip over players like Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar, because we do get to talk about these numbers, and we do get to pull up these Edge stats. And for Avs fans who watch every game, all 82, watch every broadcast, you watched Nathan McKinnon from his first NHL game, Cale Makar from his first NHL game. You know this day in, day out. When we have crossover episodes, on the episode and even off the air, every host says, I would do anything for a Cale Makar. I would, like everybody, you ask any fan base, Colorado Avalanche, it's either I would do this for a Nathan McKinnon or a Cale Makar. Like we see Cale Makar's highlights and his lowlights. And I don't want us to take for granted how incredible of a player and generational and legendary and he's only 26, for goodness sake. I know. And he's putting up numbers that are just like cheat codes in video games. I'm glad that everybody gets to visually see that on the NHL Edge.
You always go back to the 4th overall pick. You always say like, you see those redrafts and stuff like that, and there's no doubt about it. If that draft was redone, he would be number 1 100 times out of 100. Without question. So you see some comments there from our subtext people. Corey says, I actually would give him a B+, A-, had an outstanding regular season, but was a ghost for too much of the series. I wouldn't say he was a ghost. I think that's being a bit harsh. We just expect greatness from him all of the time. And he was kind of like an average player. I would say he was maybe a little bit above average, but we expect him to be elite. And he was not that. He was not that in the playoffs. So, but I wouldn't consider him a ghost. I think that's harsh language, Coy.
I think the third period of Game 7, I think everybody let everybody down. It's a collective thing, not just a Cale Makar thing. Nobody was scoring, and everybody was allowing everybody to score in that third.
Christina says loved his regular season. Just unfortunate that didn't translate into the playoffs much. And electrician Ziggy says we did not hail Cale in the playoffs at all.
Well,
tough graders, these Avalanche fans.
Let me speak to the citizens of Subtextia. Cale Makar is a defenseman. He's doing defenseman things in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Where he's a ghost in the playoffs, good. As long as he's not a liability, he's winning. He's getting A+. When it comes to ghosts, talk to the forwards. Complain to them. He's supposed to be a defender. As long as he's defending, great. If you have your defender going out and scoring to compensate for your forwards, there's a problem.
Yeah.
Don't knock Cale Makar. He had 5 points, and that's still really good for a defenseman in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Don't point at Cale Makar and saying, you were not good enough in the playoffs when he was doing more than any other defenseman was.
Yeah. And I think just because he's out there so much, you see his number out there, almost 30 minutes a night. He has more opportunity to do something wrong. And when he does, I feel like just gets blown up more. So I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but could he have played better in the playoffs? Yeah. You could have said that about 12 guys for the Avalanche. So,
and we're used to him bailing us out. And if he was a normal, good NHL defenseman, we wouldn't have to be reliant on it. We are spoiled as Avalanche fans for Cale Makar's performances night in, night out, to where we feel like he can save the day when just going by job description, he shouldn't.
Yeah, it's true. So, but yeah, overall, he's a easy A, I think, for the majority of people. So,
yep.
All right, that was going to wrap it up for today, everyone. So thank you for tuning in and making this your first listen of the day. We'll be back tomorrow with anything going on in Avalanche Nation. So make sure you tune in to that one. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We'll see you guys tomorrow, where you made it through another 24 hours. Sidney Crosby's that much closer to being with the Colorado Avalanche.
No, not at all.